stream. My name is Skylar Santana, and if you're new here, this channel is all about watches. Today we are at the WindUp Shop with my man Teo. Teo, thank you so much for joining me.
Of course, absolute pleasure.
He's going to take us through a couple of watches to make sure that we get some proper knowledge, because as you guys know, I'm the learning professional. That's what I've been coined. So we're going to look at a lot of great new releases that are at the WindUp Shop here that you guys could take a look at if you're in the area or if you want to come down and visit. So Teo, where do you want to start? You put a pretty good spread here.
Dude, I'm so happy to hear that, of course. Let's start with the Autodromo right here. This is the Autodromo Monoposto Series 2.
Okay.
I really, really love this. So I'm a huge fan of just like history of the watches, you know, why they got inspired, that kind of stuff. And so with this one, I don't know how familiar you are with the brand Autodromo, but it was started with the idea of always being inspired by race cars, race car history, things of that nature. And so the Monoposto Series 2 actually takes all of its inspiration from 1950s Grand Prix racing. So that's like your single car, box car kind of design, which I just think is such a cool space to try to like make your brand.
Right.
It's also a New York local brand, so shout out to New York. I'm always a fan of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
But what's just really cool with this is you'll notice it has a 42 millimeter dial, but the bezel itself is just so small that the actual dial itself has a lot of presence there. But conversely, the lug-to-lug is only 46.
Okay.
So it's actually extremely wearable on a large variety of wrists, which I think just makes it a really, really cool watch to add to a collection.
I love that.
I love this stripe of red right here, which kind of has the like tachymeter, the feel of like what you would have in the car. It's revving up, that kind of stuff, which I just think is really, really fun. And then the last thing, and you please hold it. That's half the fun of this, right?
That's the reason why I came.
Is so they make two color palettes, and this one is the moss green. Now, don't be fooled; it's not actually moss green. It is a much like a green hue that almost spans into the gray.
Okay.
The moss there is actually for the race car driver. It was Sir Sterling Moss, who was this famous race car driver in the 50s. And that was the color palette of who he was driving, which was Aston Martin at the time. Wow. And so that was kind of the idea, is like really find that kind of history and get into it.
Super
Yeah,
cool.
the other one they do is the Azura, which is in like sky blue.
Okay.
And these are limited editions. There's only 150 pieces being made of both of them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you chose this piece because I always say support your local micro brands. I have the Islander, I have Brew watches. My guys know that that's something that I like to, especially in times of tariff where things are getting,
100%.
very expensive, harder for the market and everything else. And I'll tell you what, I looked at Autodrome several times and I needed to see this watch in person, because I'll tell you what, before in the past, if I'm being honest, respectfully, I didn't feel Autodrome was really for me, but now that I'm holding this timepiece, I get it. I get it. And especially with that size and circumference of the diameter, that short lug to lug, and they just know what they're doing. 100%. And to have that history that you just explained, fantastic timepiece for sure. I could definitely see this limited timepiece. So you got to move on it if you want to.
Jump if you want to. But exactly what you're saying, I think that's half the fun, is that like you need to try something on.
Sure.
You know, we can see these pictures online, but it's another thing when you actually try it on your wrist. Sometimes you see the dimensions, the specs online, and you think, oh, that's going to fit me perfectly. You get in there, it doesn't work. Conversely, something else that you think is like way too big or way too small, and then you put it on your wrist, and you're like, actually, this works flawlessly.
Exactly. You just, if you can, do as I say, not as I do. I bought a lot of watches.
No shade.
It happens. And look, with micro brands, they're web-based, right? They sell their watches online for the most part. You guys, fortunately, do a fantastic job displaying the watches, giving us that touch and feel. We're going to talk about the show here.
For sure.
But Teo, we committed the cardinal sin, just so you know. We didn't do a wristwatch check.
Oh, we got to step out. We're time. Oh my gosh, already the worst live. This is terrible. No, let's rewind.
So on my wrist, I have the new Casio Edifice Automatic. I do want to get your thoughts on that. And I have shown this on other live streams. I did find a strap that worked. Let me know. I'll give you a link for it. But I love this watch personally. 60-70% of the reason why I purchased the watch was because it's just Casio doing an automatic. Right? Like,
it's so cool.
And the hot take on it was the NH35. Let me show you. Let me let you hold it. I know you have it here at the shop.
No, but I actually physically have yet to hold it, because we actually just got a new batch in. and I'm really stoked to start playing with these things. But that is gorgeous.
And I think you guys have 2 models. I think
Yes.
you have that model,
And
and
the
then you
black.
have the black dial colorway as well. So if you guys are interested to see it, you could also purchase the watch on their shop online. I have links in the description for you guys to go directly to the shop here and see what they have with all the watches that we're going over. But I'll tell you what, the hot take is that NH35, and for me, here's the deal. The biggest thing people are saying is that Casio should have did an in-house movement. And I wanted to take this opportunity to say that it's not, just because you can doesn't mean that you should. And it's gonna cost a lot of money to not only do that, but you have to have that years of testing that movement
100%.
to make sure that you're not just, oh yeah, we made a movement, but then now it's a failure rate. And now you've ruined the name
I
for
mean,
yourself.
movements are one of the hardest parts of the entire puzzle of this thing, right? And so especially with them kind of dipping their toe into the water of doing these kind of automatic watches, I think it makes complete sense to go in with something like that. That being said, some of my watch modding friends were a little distressed when all of a sudden NH was a lot harder to find. I had one who, we got another batch and was like, hey, do you want to edit this? And he's like, I'm pretty salty about that. I was like, all right, cool. I'll leave that back. I'll leave that back.
I get it.
You let me know when the tides change for you.
Sure.
But
sure,
no, I
sure.
think it is super cool. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of Casio because of the fact that it is so exceedingly accessible.
Yes.
And I think especially for people getting into this for the first time, somebody who's on the younger side, or even, I mean, again, wherever you are in that, they make great watches, and on top of this, at incredible prices relative to what you're getting.
Right.
I mean, we were talking earlier off camera, but like the Duro, things like that. I mean, there's a lot of these kind of watches that they make them so somebody who's just getting into this can, say, okay, let me start with this. And the people that are aficionados really love them. You know, so you kind of get the best of both worlds. You're not somebody who's going with a brand that somebody's like, oh, I've heard negative things. You're like, it's super cheap, all that kind of stuff. So I'm a huge fan of this. I think it's super cool that they're jumping into the automatic space just to see what they can do in that world as well. And I think this was an amazing introduction to it.
Can't agree with you any more than that. And I want to show you this piece. You probably were eyeballing this.
I did look at both wrists. I love that.
Speaking of entry level, this is the F91W. It can be spotted a mile away. What I've done since you mentioned modifying, I did a black, a blue negative display on this. So I took off the polarized film that was in it, and I put a negative blue display on here. And then this is an actual Vario strap that I put on as well. So let me show you that. We'll show it to the viewers. Yeah, absolutely. We'll put this down on the table, and then we'll let you guys see the F91W.
This is awesome.
So again, my channel and what I've always liked to preach, like I want watches to be accessible at every level. And just because you purchase a 15, which by the way, that's a rock solid watch. You know what I mean? Like you could gym, vacation, whatever you want to do. But if you want to still have a little bit more fun with it and do the modifications, you're able to do that as well. And I'm happy to help you guys. If you want, I have a video on how to do what I did for this watch.
I was gonna say I'm gonna be watching that after.
I appreciate that.
Awesome.
I appreciate that. At every level, man, you can do that. And I think you guys have a brand at the WindUp shows that also do a modification to the F91W.
Yes, we do.
And they do like an oil-filled casing for its stuff.
Well, precisely what you were saying, that's the really cool part with the modding world, and I think it's gotten even bigger and bigger now, is just what you can imagine you can do with these things, and especially when you have movements that are a lot easier to attain, as we were getting at with the NH, it just makes for such a cool variable world. And yeah, I mean, exactly this kind of thing. What I love with Casio's getting into that is like, that is a very safe watch when you're starting out. If you're like, I'm worried about destroying this thing, you're like, okay, it's probably good to start over here, get my feelings for it. How do I like this? And you did a great job with this.
Thank
you,
is really
good. And I love it on the strap as well. That is really, really cool.
Thank you.
You're giving me ideas.
Listen, they're all for the taking. If you like something, I'll definitely give you all the information. It's all about sharing information at the end of the day.
My problem is my friends are gonna come over and it's like, what is this laboratory you're building now? It's like, shh, in my corner looking at these things, but I love this.
So let me ask you, what's on your wrist?
Yeah, of course. Let me pull this off. I wanted to actually do something a little vintagey. This is the Seiko Dolce. And they came out in the 80s. But I really loved this because I was looking for kind of a dressier thing. I liked the idea of putting it on a bracelet, kind of like bringing it to work. You can elevate it, but it doesn't have to be just for, cocktail events, things of that nature.
Sure.
Again, as I said, big old fan of history, and I just loved that. Dolce was kind of their first idea of going into the world that would turn into Grand Seiko, which I just thought was super cool. So at the time, this was like incredible quartz movement, so it kept unbelievable accuracy, and that was what led them into the first idea of like, what if we kept going in this idea of like these more elevated watches. So again, I just think that's so cool to have this piece that's like right at the cornerstone as they're kind of transitioning into the Grand Seiko era.
Right.
And knowing like, okay, this is the forebearer that, you know, starts it all.
Right,
Which I just
right.
think is
Dude, it's the stories that we get so attached to and just make these things more special, more attached to it and everything
100%.
else, whether it's a news story where you feel like you're living through history,
Yeah.
or it's an older story of the past that you just resonate to and get excited about and love to just look at your wrist when you see that and you look
Yeah.
at you think of that story.
Yeah, and I mean, again, you know, so we can all wear these smart watches, things like that. Which no shade, I get it. If you want to check
shade.
your, you know, stats at the gym, things like that.
Right.
But it doesn't have that same personal feel to it.
Right.
And at the end of the day, what do they get obsolete after a certain point?
Oh, boy.
My friend was telling me, he's like, I can't update it anymore.
Right,
I was like,
exactly.
all right, so what does it do now? He's like,
It's
you know,
door stopper.
yeah, exactly. I was like, cool. This one's from the '80s and
Right.
still does what it set out to do in the first place, and that's really cool.
Exactly. The only thing I could say for silver lining on
Yes.
the Apple Watch, I actually started with that, and I'll tell you why. I wasn't used to having anything on my wrist.
Yeah.
And for some reason or another, I thought that if I tracked my sleep and I knew this and I knew that I was going to become a all-star athlete.
How's that going for you? Are you?
Terrible. Please keep the camera higher. But it didn't work out. And charging the watch, like you definitely cannot connect to the watch. It almost doesn't want to connect to you and wants to annoy you. But the silver lining was I got something used to my wrist. Right?
100%.
And then you could transition easily to an F91W,
Yep.
flatter on the wrist and everything
of
else, and then
course.
just have that story, have that connection, and
100%.
modify whatever you want to do at that point, and then the race is off after that. You know what I mean?
My other thing is I don't feel like I need to be reached on my wrist as well. You know, these days with cell phones, you got like 83 different
don't need
ways to
another
get
thing.
me.
Yeah,
It's like back in the day, it was like what my mom's phone at home.
Right.
And now it's like, you know, 8 different forms of text messages, all this kind of
Sure,
stuff. So I'm like, what if
sure.
I kept that away from this one zone? If I bought
Dude,
it?
don't get me started. It's like nowadays, people get upset if you don't answer their text within 5 minutes.
Crazy.
Back in the day, it was like you only got that person if they were home.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that was it. You had to know when they were going to be home,
Yes.
maybe, and if you didn't, you call them tomorrow.
Yes.
So last thing I need, like you said, is just something ringing, binging, and just chiming.
Another way to do it. Yeah.
Unless it's like an hour repeater in a mechanical
Yeah.
watch. Then you're like, this is gonna
cool.
ring away. Yeah, exactly.
No, so I'm half Swedish. My family friend over there, he was telling me about, you know, in like the 80s, wooing his now wife via just like snail mail. And I was sitting there like stunned, just being like, so what do you do? It's like, I waited for a month or 2 until she responded to me. And I was like, that is
Wild.
crazy. As you said, it's like now I'd be
Nowadays.
freaking out. I'd be like, where are you? What's going on?
Right,
You know,
exactly.
it's just not the same world as it once was.
Not at all, not
Yeah.
at all. But we got to go with it. But watches bring us back to that timeless type of feel, and
100%.
you know we don't want snail mail anymore, but we definitely want something a little bit older.
Yeah,
so
tactile.
is there something here on the table that you have that has a little bit more age to it, that's older than the watches that you've presented?
100%. Yeah, actually, this guy right here, speaking of my love for history, Nivada Grenchen, which is a company that is steeped in history. It was started in the 1920s and had a lot of innovations, especially in the 50s to 60s. Unfortunately, like a lot of companies, the quartz crisis kind of knocked them out.
Sure.
And so they kind of got passed around as like, for one point, I believe they were actually in Mexico making very like standard, much cheaper watches.
Okay.
I actually had a client from Mexico come in, and he was surprised to see it. And he was like, "Oh,
Really?
those are like the crummy watches." And I was like, "Oh, well, in like 2020 or so, they got brought back to Switzerland." And the thing that they're doing, which I really, really love, is that everything they're designing are based on the watches from their own catalog. Nothing is like homages or anything like that. They are
Okay.
building what they had built before.
Going into their own archives.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly, which I just think is a really, really cool one. So with this one, what's amazing with the history is it's called the Antarctic, and you might see there's kind of feels like an explorer-y watch.
Yeah.
But so Rolex did an amazing job with the branding for that, you know, doing the whole Everest thing. What's really cool about this is this actually did go on an amazing adventure, which is that it was the watch used by the 1955 U.S. expedition to Antarctica. So at this point, watches, I mean, they don't have what they have today. The water resistance was virtually none, shock absorption, the fear of how does it deal in sub-zero climate, things like that nature. And this watch was the one they ended up going with. They found it to be the most robust and powerful watch.
Wow.
So it really put Nivada Grenchen on the map at that point. And so like if you look at the case back on that as well, it has a penguin, which is kind of like, you know, harkening back to its history, which I just think is super, super cool. It's a gorgeous, sleek design, 35 millimeters. So I feel like it kind of does a great place of you can dress it up, you can play with it, you know, throw it on bracelets, things like that. It really has just a nice open variety to it. And again, I just think it's really cool when you see that kind of history in a watch.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Teo, that brings up a question. How do you feel about the and the idea that watches are getting smaller or people are wanting smaller watches? Do you feel that that's the case? And I'll give you my personal answer. I don't think it's necessarily the case where people want smaller watches moving forward. Rather, they're more open to the idea of wearing a smaller watch, where we had that big push in the early 2000s of the bigger watches being into play. I think it's just becoming more socially acceptable to going back to where it started, right? Because 33, 35 millimeters was normal for a man to wear, right? But what do you think about that when you see the purchases at the WindUp Shop and everything else?
I am biased with smaller wrists, that I do love it. I am a fan of it. But regardless of that, I completely agree. It does seem to be having like a resurgence. I think there's probably something where I always joke, but I feel like we had like gone so large that everyone's like, all right, let's settle down. maybe we've crested here where it's like I'm putting a clock on my wrist at this point.
Sure.
So I really love this because the other part is kind of going back to it. I think people are really into having watches that feel a little bit more retro to it right now, and that can lead back to that case size. As you said, I think a lot of men feeling more comfortable wearing that case size. I had some guys that we were at the Chicago WindUp, and a guy with a fairly prominent wrist size, and he looked at exactly that one and was talking to me about being like, yeah, at one point in my life, I thought I had to be wearing things at the 42 and above kind of range. But I'm feeling now like actually that was always felt a little too big. Still like some of these obviously, but I want to start like playing more into this range of the 30s and below, or I mean the 39 and below, which I think is really, really cool with that kind of sphere. And like, we're right now doing an event with vintage watches, so to your point, you see a lot of that 33, 35, and as you get at, that's what men were wearing. The other part is I think as the whole world of watches gets much more accessible, I think we're kind of getting over the idea of these faux pas, the idea that like, oh, you have to wear it for this.
I
had
agree.
a woman came in and she was looking at a Tissot PRX, not like the very small dainty one, but actually like a 40 millimeter. And she was asking me like, am I allowed to wear this? And I was like, it's 2025. Like if you want to wear this,
wear
like rock your
yeah.
socks off, do it.
Sure.
And so it was just like a really cool, funny, interaction where you realize like, no, this is about your style. And going back to it, it's like you personalize whatever it is you want. So if you're somebody that feels like, yes, I like rocking that smaller dimension, go for it. If you're somebody who's, like, I want this thing to, look like I could hang it on my wall tomorrow,
have at it. Yeah, if you like it, I love it. That's what I like to say.
I think a big thing with WindUp in general is it's like it really is trying to be like a non-pretentious zone, a very judgment-free zone. The idea is we meet you where you're at. We have people who come to the fairs who, literally are like, I'm just now understanding there's 12 numbers on this thing. And you have people who are, massively into this world, have been in it forever. You hear really cool stories like that. It's just a nice, cool hodgepodge, and everybody feels very supportive no matter where you are in your journey.
100%, and that's the exact feel that I had in my first show at 23.
Oh, awesome, yeah.
It was a super accelerant to my enthusiasm to watches. I had no idea, because you get into watches personally, but maybe some of your friends and family members are not. And so when I walked through the doors and I saw the mass amount of people in there from all walks of life, having different ranges of watches and being as enthusiastic, like, dude, whatever you have on your wrist, man or woman, we all are equal. We all have a seat at the table. Let's break bread and have some conversation and some excitement about watches. 100%. And to your point about sizing on the wrist, my wife has a 6.5-inch wrist, and she puts on my watch that I want to show you. It's a MicroBrand that is fairly new, from last year. It's a 42, and she wears it, and she loves it on her wrist. And
I love that for her.
Exactly, exactly. It works, and maybe we'll put that on so you can get it on camera as well.
Can't wait.
So, before we get too far off course, but I'm having fun doing it, man.
This is great.
This might be a 3-hour live.
I was gonna say, unfortunately, it seems like we can just keep talking.
We better order some food. What's the next thing that you want to show us that you brought out?
Yeah, of course. So we actually just had a real cool event with Paulin, which is a Scottish watch company, for their release of their latest collection, which is their first soiree into the dive watches. And this is the Mara. And I love this because, in general, I've been a huge fan of everything Paulin designs. I love kind of the color schemes they do. I love the fonts that they make with it. It just feels like a very playful watch. And so with this one, you have the geometric indices, but you still keep the Arabic numerals at the 12 and 6. I think is a really fun design to it. But don't let the outside kind of fool you. The inside is actually really, really robust. So it has 300 meters of water resistance. It uses a Le Jeu Pareil movement, which gives it 68 hours of power reserve. So you've got a really, really sturdy timepiece here.
Correct.
But you still get a lot of this fun pops of whims. And like one of my favorite details, give it a hold,
Yeah, absolutely.
is that the bezel, the insert on that, is domed sapphire coating on top of that.
I love that.
So it just has this cool, almost like ripple effect to it that I just really vibe with. And again, you know, we have so many of these kind of styles of dive watches. You can put this one out there too.
Yeah.
Comes in 2 colorways right now, black and blue. And with both of them, it just, I don't know, there's some like fun whim to it and pop. I just feel like it almost feels like something you'd find in like Tintin or something like that era.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? I just, again, they always find a way to put their markings on it, which I think is amazing. And then it comes with 2 straps. So right now what you're seeing it on is the fabric strap that they do in-house, recycled materials, as well as rubber straps as well. So you kind of get the versatility with that. And again, with 300 meters of water resistance, you can take this wherever you want.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't just feel like your weekend watch that you're a little scared of actually, you know, wearing or
Sure.
anything. Throw this around. That's half the fun of this, right? Is
Yeah.
to have this kind of poppy colors that just feel like they can get into your style however you like to do that. I mean, to your point, you personalize these, you find what fits with your style, and especially as you're unfortunately getting more and more of these watches over time.
Yeah.
I'm sure the bank account doesn't love it, but you know, you can find something you say like, oh, I haven't had that pop of blue before. I want to find a way to, you know, incorporate that, or I just love the, you know, the indices on this one, so I really want to like play with that. I just think it's a really fun, playful watch while still feeling rugged and durable.
Fair enough. And that's the biggest thing that I get as feedback from watch enthusiasts. They don't want to see another homage. It gets a little tiring. They want to see somebody have some fun with it. And the design factor that they've done on this, I mean, just everything from the hands that they utilize. I love when they have the second hand reach all the way out to the edge of the dial. That's fantastic.
Yes.
300 meters. And as you said, the movement is an actual dateless. There's no ghost position on this as well. So that's also important. That leans into the enthusiast kind of wants and needs on the specifications, you know, as specific as they come.
Yep.
What I love the most about this, to be honest with you, is that like rounded bezel insert. It gives me like that Blancpain type of feel, but you know those life circles that they throw out into the ocean? Like when it's nautical, it gives me that kind of feel, and it just makes me
100%.
so excited to see something like that.
And to your point, I mean, I think there's something with like these micro brands that are coming up that can really do interesting designs. You're not going to just see the homages, but you're going to see somebody who really took the time. And what's cool with Paulin is it's a woman-owned company. And that's normally
3 sisters, I believe.
Exactly. And that's not normally something you see in the watchmaking world.
Right.
And again, I think per the idea of somewhere in the 2000s, we've really seen kind of the whole world expand as it gets more accessible. And there wasn't actually a lot of space for women designing watches. So for the longest time, it was just the very small, dainty watches. And I think they came along and said, like, we want more variety. And it doesn't mean it just has to be for women. I mean, a lot of this I sell to like men as well.
Oh, yeah.
But the idea is that you just get a new perspective on aesthetics that wouldn't necessarily have been there before.
Right.
And that's why I think what they're doing is just so interesting, original, and it comes down to, you know, just what is your perspective on life, what are your experiences, and I think you see that so readily available in their watches.
Yeah, I mean, surely getting away from the pink it and shrink it type of feel and just giving that expansion. More of a like a unisex kind of size and design and everything else.
100%.
And that's what I love to see. I love watches that connect both sexes, because watches are sexless. Let's be honest. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a man wearing a pink dial nowadays, and I think that's the way it should
Free
be.
the pink. I love this.
Yeah, free the pink, and just across the board, just make everything accessible to everybody. You like what you like. If you like it, I love it, and I can appreciate whatever you decide to put on the wrist, and that's it, man. Let's have a conversation.
Judgment-free zone.
And let's be honest, I want you to have something different on your wrist, because like you told us your story with your watch, that gives me a different perspective, and that's what I'm really all about in life. Like just seeing something that I haven't seen before is fascinating for me.
Well, that's the exciting part when you go to like the fairs or anything like that. All of a sudden, you're like, what is that? I want to see that. And you, 99% of the time, you run up to somebody and say that, they're like, oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not seeing anybody be like, back away. I don't want
Get
to.
away from
I don't want
it.
to show. I don't want to talk about watches. I've yet to find that one.
Right.
But exactly to your point, it's a lot of fun to get that personality to it, and I think they do that in spades.
Oh yeah, for sure. An exciting release. I'm so glad you guys have it for people who want to come and visit the shop and take a look at that. So, you know, we're talking about interesting dials. We saw the design here on this 2 release watches from again, that was the first time they did their divers, right?
Yeah, they actually had the release event here at the WindUp Watch Shop. Yeah, it was really,
Dude,
really cool.
I'm gonna be here often.
I'm
gonna pitch a tent.
We'll put you over there. It'll be perfect.
There you go. So since we're on the subject of divers and something interesting on dials,
Yeah.
I think the proper transition would be the Oris at this point.
You've
Please.
done it expertly, of course.
Thank you. Go ahead.
No, please. So this is their latest edition, limited edition in the Aquas line, and what I just love with this is the mission statement behind this.
Yes.
So it's limited to only 2,000 pieces, and the reason is that all the proceeds from this go to an incredible organization called the Billion Oysters Project.
Right.
And again, being a New York fan here, the Billion Oyster Project was started with the notion of, as the name would suggest, bringing 1 billion oysters back to New York waterways.
Right.
Oysters, what's really cool is like marine biologists will liken oysters to actually the trees of the ocean. The idea is that trees obviously have a huge impact on our environment. They can clean the air, things like that. Oyster, a single one, can filter about 50 gallons of water. Yeah, and so if you have a billion of those doing that, you're getting a lot cleaner water.
Now, is that in a year, in a week?
Day.
A day. Wow. Super important to the ocean. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead.
And so then, like, oyster hatcheries, like, in the ocean, they will actually act as natural barriers to storms, things like that.
Right,
so as we're really realizing just the power that our own environment has to regulate itself, and unfortunately, as we've been polluting it more, and in the case of oysters, they were getting overfished, people realized that was affecting the New York waterways. And so in the 70s, with the Clean Water Act, they started that process. But this is an amazing organization. They've already, I believe, brought in 150 million oysters back, and they are showing no signs of stopping. This is the 3rd year they've collaborated with them, which I think is just an amazing, story to this piece. And again, what's just cool with this one is you buy this, you have an amazing watch, and you also feel like, all right, I'm doing my part. This is you get both in one, which
For sure.
not often.
Right.
And then the last thing here is just the aqua green mother of pearl dial to it is
Super
amazing. In fact, I don't want to look at it too much longer because I'm going to end up taking it, so keep that away from me.
Okay, you got it.
But I love that. It comes with both the bracelet and that rubber strap there as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just an amazing piece. Again, I love those kind of limited editions. You know, it's one of 2,000, and you know that the proceeds from this are doing something really incredible.
Absolutely, and I don't think that that's the first time Oris has done something like that. They really are an independent brand that is consciously always trying to be a part of something like that. And there was a version 1 of this, I believe.
Yes, version 1. They've done collaborations now. I know they've worked with the organization. This is their 3rd year doing so with them. And then, as you're saying, I mean, they're a carbon neutral company now. They're actually starting to work to lower their carbon footprint, I think by like 2035.
Yes, that's right.
You know, so it's those kind of amazing details that, like, as they say, you know, this is a luxury watch world. You don't think of them as trying to find that space for themselves. But I think that's really cool when a brand says, we know ourselves, we know that this isn't necessarily something you need, but we want to know that we're actually doing our part for the world.
Yes.
And we're leaving it in a better space than the one we unfortunately found it in.
Right.
And I just think, you know, what a cool way to support something like that and to have something amazing like that on your wrist. And it's amazing when we get to have these in the showroom and somebody gets to physically hold it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's very important. And I think, as you said, and to your point, they downsized on their packaging. I mean, when you're talking about buying a luxury watch like this and you're spending $3,000, everybody's used to getting that nice wooden large case. But let's be honest, it's going to sit in the closet. It's going to go to the waste. It's just going to add to the problem.
Exactly.
So for them to be brave enough to downsize in that and to reduce their carbon footprint really speaks to their mission statement. And they make fantastic watches. I've always gone to their, I can't even call it a lemonade stand as big as their booth has always been. But I love to see the bear. I love to see the collaborations with the Miss Piggy and everything. It's just so much fun that they have.
If you're a Yankees fan, that also helps.
Yeah,
if you're
absolutely.
a Mets fan, then it's probably a little rough.
I'm not going to touch that one. I'm going to leave that one. I try to stay in safer zones. But either way, they have such a variety of fun divers. And I have to eventually put one in my collection for sure. And knowing that story behind it and why I was so excited to speak about it, I think it needs to be brought to light and it should be talked about in many, many circles.
I think it's really cool when brands like this are getting behind mission statements like that, especially when you are something that, while being independent, is quite a powerful watch brand at this point.
Yes.
So saying, like, we know we have that authority in this sphere and we're using it for good.
So responsible.
Is really, really cool to see.
Love that. Love that. With great power comes great responsibility. Oof. I've got a whole bunch of corny little things.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. The transition game here is fire.
Appreciate you. So where do we go here? I think we have one more left.
Yes, we do. So again, speaking to that history, it's one more from Nivada Grenchen.
Okay.
Again, I'm personally obsessed with them, and I think the big reason I wanted to showcase them is, for a lot of people, it's because it's a relatively recent re-edition. people haven't had the chance to hold it on the wrist. As I was saying, I was working pretty closely at the Nivada booth in Chicago, and the number one thing, it was people coming over and be like, I have heard about this, but I haven't actually seen one yet.
Right.
You know, I wanted to hold one. And I think the same thing happens here with foot traffic. We have them on the far end, and I just see people beelining over there because that was something that was been on their list to go see.
Okay.
And so this one is the F77, which is one of their most popular watches in their lineup. And what is very cool with this is you might notice it kind of feels like it has a Royal Oaky feel to it.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
But not an homage. That is what they were producing at that period.
Okay.
Which again just goes back to, I think, the originality that they've had. And you know, speaking of something where in the quartz crisis, it's it's really sad how many really cool brands just went out of existence.
Right.
And there's something amazing when a brand can actually come back into life. You know, to have a resurgence like that, I think is just amazing, and I want to celebrate that because it's few and far between.
Right.
You know, for the most part, you're gonna go find some vintage version of a watch, and with them, like they literally have enthusiast pages where people find old vintage photos, and like there were several where the guys who bought it didn't even actually know that that had been in the catalog originally, so they start finding more and more pictures, and they go, you know what, this is amazing. Like let's find a way to bring this one back as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
and I think that's like the best way to do it when you're going back into your archives and you're breathing new life into a design.
Yeah.
And again, during that period, like you said, there was a lot of watch companies that were going after that type of look, and you don't only seen it with that kind of design. You see it with a lot of designs. It was just the thing. It was the time to come out with something like that as well. So to have that history, that dial is absolutely gorgeous. You need to keep that thing away from me. Because I'm glad you're doing the whole vintage thing here at the shop too. Just so you guys know, they're having an event where they have somebody here who can educate you on vintage pieces as well. These are things that they do at the shop location. And I definitely need to brush up on my vintage pieces and the history and everything else. It's always by the seller, of course, when it comes to vintage pieces and everything else. And it's harder sometimes to get that kind of information. So having that relationship, and you guys do a phenomenal job of just making that accessible to the people. So I want to congratulate you guys.
We really appreciate that. And a big thing is just the collaboration aspect. Sure. So the Watch Preserve is in Fort Worth, Texas. And we've just worked with them over the years, and just at some point we're like, we'd love to have you in this space, you know, show us more about this world of vintage watches, make that accessible, bring people in that way. Right. And I think that's been a huge part to the whole ethos is collaboration. This isn't, you know, it's getting bigger now, but it's a relatively small world, especially on like the independent side of things. And I think there's just strength in numbers. Yeah. And it's what I love about it is that it isn't necessarily this competition game of like, you know, we can't support them. But it's like, let's do collaborations. I mean, over the years, you know, Worn and Wound and WindUp have done multiple collabs with different brands. So we've done, you know, work with Brew, we've done work with Nivada, and I just really love that idea of like, let's find something that, you know, adheres to both of our sensibilities. And we have a fan base over here that loves this, and you have that. What if we, you know, bring them together?
Absolutely, combine forces. And we're even seeing that with the independent brands and the micro brands themselves, combining forces on collaborations. So it's really exciting to see. I know it's not for some people, but when it comes to an establishment that you have here, it's awesome to combine those forces and bring that accessibility, like I said, to the people and everything else. So fantastic, and I'm always going to keep my eyes open to see what you're going to host next and who's going to be a part of that. I'd like to talk about the shop. We kind of put the cart before the horse. We'll talk about the shop. I want to ask you general questions of what was the beginning stages, the beginning idea of the shop? Where is it today, and where do you want it to be?
100%, those are great questions. So Worn and Wound, which is the online publication, was the first phase of all of this, and that's, you know, quite a long history at this point. They then started by just selling straps at first with WindUp. That was the first thing. And then over the years started becoming an authorized dealer for different brands and kind of building that relationship. The idea being, again, for the most part, smaller brands or brands in Europe that don't have the same kind of footprint here in America. This showroom space is actually relatively recent. So at first it was just for appointments, things of that nature. And it was only in November that we opened it out as an actual space. And the idea was just, again, we have the WindUp Fairs. The number one thing people always say is, this is the first time I've held these things. That is so cool. And we took that to heart and wanted to create a space that, you know, you could come to on a more regular basis. We try to bring things in and out. So therefore, you know, if you saw something one week, maybe it's not there, but obviously we keep a huge inventory on the website. This is just a space you can come into for the first time and see something. So, you know, I have somebody who comes in for Junghans, and they've never held one. This is their first opportunity. They say, I love, this 38 millimeter dial, or this case, I want to see it in the black.
Right.
Go to the website, know the dimensions. If that feels like it fits for you, you have a much better idea of these watches.
Yes.
And I think one of the most important aspects, the ethos, and this was actually the case also at the WindUp Fairs, is that we really try for the most part to keep nothing behind glass. The person, especially in the smaller brands, it's the owner of the company, somebody there. You can actually go talk to them. You can meet the person. You can just go up, pick up things. The number one thing I find myself having to say to people is like, you can pick that up. Like, go play with it. I'm not here to,
I'm not monitoring you.
Exactly.
Go ahead and go for it. That's why you're here.
Yeah, because you go to a lot of places and it's behind glass. You have to find somebody like, I'm sorry, is it cool if I see this watch? Some places might even be like, oh, I mean, maybe.
And that silently ruins the experience. I'll tell you what, I was just purchasing new glasses, these glasses I'm wearing now. And the
Great
fact
glasses,
that I had,
by the way.
Thank you, sir.
Of course.
The fact that I had to keep asking, oh, can I see that one?
Yeah.
It just, like, maybe now I'm getting a little tired myself as the shopper, and I just can't fully be myself and just grab and go and really experience them. So I love that idea and that philosophy to have the open space, hands-on, go after it, do what you want to do, have some fun with it, and just, again, leading back to that accessibility and that
100%.
friendliness to it.
And then I think in terms of where we're going with this, we've been hosting more and more events. And the idea is obviously collaboration, but just building a community. Almost every one of the events, there's somebody new there. And then you also see the people who's like, oh, we were at the last one together like 2 months ago. Oh, it's so cool to see you again.
Right.
And you're watching, friendships start to form. I've built rapport with people that I'm, like, oh, great, it's awesome to see you again.
Yes.
We were talking last time about, Paulin watch, something else, Formex. And now you're back and this is the one you're interested in. So it just breeds community, which I think is amazing to see. And obviously that helps us. It gives us more opportunity to listen to customers and fan base and go, what is it you wanted to see?
Yeah.
So we had some customers in here like, I wanted to see one of this different part of the Max Bill collection on a chronoscope, and we go, cool, like, give us some time. We think that's something we could bring into the collection. That's easy for us.
Right.
So we really have the opportunity to listen to more people. It's one thing when it's on the website where you don't have that same, customer to interaction portion of things. So I think what's just been amazing with it, because again, with watches, it's tangible.
Right.
You want to know what this feels like, especially if you're into the mechanicals or automatics. You love the idea of knowing this is nothing electric in here. You know that this was built, with every little gear and every little, attention to detail that you can only find in this kind of sphere. And I think in this era, you see more and more people who are interested in that. I always liken it to, it's like people who like record players. It's like you could play this on Spotify, but you like the idea of like owning the physical thing.
Having that kind of vibe and feel.
Even
and
just the graininess to it. I mean, it's the same thing in film.
Some people like that. They want to bring it, back into their own reality. They don't want it to be super clear. They want it to have that kind of feel to it, for sure.
So I think a huge thing is in all those spheres is people are yearning for a collective nature. We live in an era now where you could live your whole life online. Right. You could have every interaction in that space, and don't get me wrong, there's amazing communities, forums, things like that. That's amazing in it. But I love that we've become a space, like a central hub where people come to. And we have people all around the world. I had a pilot from flies for an Austrian airline who was like, yeah, I found you guys online and I was coming to New York. I had an extra day. I wanted to come see this space.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then he was like, you know what? I fly this route fairly regularly. I want to come back. Is this a watch you think you get? And I was like, I mean, yeah.
Start rerouting his things. Like, oh yeah, I got to stop in New York.
We gotta land. All right, yeah. Now, if I'm on that flight, I'm like, oh, he's going to WindUp Shop. I know it. I know.
For sure.
Landing in LaGuardia.
But I get it, man. Not everybody has access to be at the shows at the dates and the times. So having something a little more consistent and constant is fantastic to get around that and also remedy that, if you will. So that's what excited me the most, to know that you guys are here and to have these brands that are not always as accessible, for sure. So I have two watch brands that I wanted to show you. I wanted to get your real live. I didn't show him these watches before. This is the first time he's touching the feeling.
I'm excited.
The first one is a new MicroBrand. It's called Noctua watches, not to be confused with the Noctua girl.
All right, cool. Not started by her? Cool.
So this is how he decided to enter into the watch space. He is doing it with a Humboldt NH38.
Yeah.
That's a full lume dial, 300
I was
meters.
going to say, it looks like it. That's amazing.
300 meters of water resistance. It gives you that SKX type of vibe mixed in with some Sin DNA as well.
Yeah.
But again, this is his starting watch coming into it. What I love about it the most is that it's a completely bead blasted bracelet and case. It gives it that really toolish, robust feel to it. I love that he used the NH38 there, so we don't have that go. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
of course.
This
it's that attention to detail.
Exactly. The owner's name, his name is JP. He's out of Canada.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he was building watches already, the custom designs, and using those Seiko parts.
I love the case back too.
Yeah, the case back's super cool.
Yeah,
and
really cool
he just decided one day, you know what? Since I'm building these watches, why not come up with my own brand and just market it and become one of those micro brand spaces as well. So I wanted to see what you're feeling. And now
you said I could keep this, right?
Oh man.
We'll talk after. We'll talk after. No, I love this. I love the all lume dial. I think that's just such a cool feature. I love keeping it to just the 3, 6, 9, 12. Like I think that's always a fun feeling of like again adventures. It has that to it, especially in a dive watch where you normally just see like indices, things like that. To have the Arabic numerals, I think is just a really cool feature to it. But yeah, I think in general, I love the bead blast to it. I think that's an amazing. That's the Casio.
That's the Casio.
For better or for worse.
It'd be an expensive complication if it was mechanical.
That'd be unbelievable. But to your point, the bead blast on this is just really, really gorgeous. Because one of the early watches I got was a Seiko SRPE, which is awesome watch. I love it to death. But when you have that polished finish, my first thing that I did was scratch it.
Yeah, of course.
Right out of the box.
First 2 seconds out of the box. Yeah, absolutely.
And we were talking about this earlier, but I think when you have the ability to get these movements that are on the relatively cheaper side and are great workhorses. I mean, you really don't hear that much negativity about a lot of these movements, which is amazing. Because I think people have this idea of like, it has to be Swiss, it has to be at that caliber. And you have a lot of these brands that can make watches very accessibly priced because they can get into the Japanese market and find these kind of movements. So I think this is a really, really cool one. Again, I really love also the second hand with the orange on there. I just love that little accent to it. I think that's fun.
So that's actually a prototype. The original watches that are released now, they have a black second hand. I actually decided to keep it the way for the prototype.
That's awesome.
I was the first content creator that he wanted to reach out to present the watch. So it's super special to me. I mean, like I really felt head over the moons. And plus the wife likes it a little bit too much because she always tries to steal it. Yeah, let's bring that up to the camera. But it's an absolute favorite for me. And I thought it would be interesting just to get your take on it for sure. It kind of gives me that feel where it's like, the one that got away. Like when I started into the watch space, the SKX 007, there's so many videos on it, and it was like such a starter. Like it was, it was the one. And it kind of gives me that feel of getting back to that because he's got the black colorway to it. His most recent releases is GMT as well.
All right, cool.
And he's got a lot of ideas already. He is a big-time watch enthusiast, like many of the brands that are at WindUp are. And his story is really, really cool. I hope the best for him, and I really appreciate you giving us your ideas and your first reactions to it as well.
Well, back to that orange secondhand because I really love that.
Oh, we got it.
Food for thought. Food for thought.
JP, you heard it here first, man. Orange secondhand. That's what it is. I thought so too. So thank you. One more brand I want to show you.
Please.
I don't know if you've experienced them before. Wise. Now this is a new brand even to my collection. And there's a lot for me to talk about with this brand. It's a Thailand-based micro brand.
That's awesome.
Their spec, their finishing is just absolutely...
I mean, I'm looking at this dial and it's amazing.
It's just very, very nice. You have those rose gold indices, rose gold hands. I think that hour hand gives a little bit of a change in design and breaks it up. Now, we all know what this sort of looks like, to be honest with you. You may get some vibes. However...
What are you talking about?
However, I do think that there's enough here.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
100%.
And one of the things that I think is absolutely fantastic about this, we'll pass this back to you. The bracelet is 100% toolless. So not only do we get quick release, not only do we get on the fly, on the clasp, but the actual links, you just pull and twist to make the adjustment. So you can actually adjust each link, remove one or add one with no tool at all. And let me show you exactly what I mean.
I was gonna say.
Actually, let me let you try it.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely, dude.
Right, this is just like a twist?
So you're gonna pull it out from the side and twist. One of the sides work.
One of the sides work?
Yeah.
All
right, let me show you.
I'm not.
No, dude, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's what I bought. So you pull this out, you twist it, and then you pull this out here.
Wow.
So right there, you could just, if you reenact that here, you'll remove that link. Or if it's a little tight and we got thermal expansion on the wrist, I would just grab a link. I
That's
would
amazing.
add it.
You don't need to bring any tools.
No
with
tool
you.
whatsoever, dude. 100% toolless bracelet.
That is an amazing, amazing, cool
There it
idea
is.
for design. That's the stuff that I just fall in love with. Is when somebody takes, you think there's like no way to innovate a bracelet, and then
Right.
somebody comes along and is like, "Psych, I can come up with a concept there that I just think is so cool."
Now, I don't know if they are the ones who invented that,
I'm
but to
just saying,
add
like,
that to it.
to the sphere of the world in
Sure,
general.
sure.
Because I mean, with Formex, they are doing incredible things with their
Oh, yeah,
straps
oh,
and
yeah.
bracelets and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So just to say that, like, when people come along and you think like, oh, this world's been around for since the turn of the century, there's no way we could possibly innovate or come up with something new.
Right.
And then somebody comes along and says like, hold my beer, I'm ready, I'm
Yeah.
ready to do something in this space.
Right, which
I think
is
amazing.
super exciting because as long as watches have been out to be
Yeah.
able to do that. And now what we're seeing as far as what I think the evolution of these micro brands or watches in general is they're hearing what we really like
Yes.
spec-wise, and they're really trying to throw it all together.
Yep.
My guess is that in the near future, we're going to see a lot of those on-the-fly adjustments on the
Yeah,
clasp.
oh,
Because,
yeah,
I mean,
everybody
thermal
wants it
expansion
now.
on a bracelet, it's almost a necessity at this point to me.
Couldn't agree more.
Now, also, just so you know, that's 904L stainless steel, so we are getting a nice high polish, which is
That is
what they're kind of
impressive.
flexing
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
bracelet
yeah.
as well. So I thought all together, now let me ask you this. I'll give you the movement that's inside of it, and I want you to try to guess the price. The movement inside is a Nivada 9075 True Traveler. So knowing everything that you know now, with all those specs and the bracelet and everything else,
Yeah.
you tell me what you think this watch is going for.
I mean, we're going sub 1,000,
Yeah.
800.
Yeah. Well, this guy's good.
Dang,
$800.
It's almost like I work here.
Exactly.
I mean, that is an amazing
I
deal.
mean, high beat
800 for this.
movement,
Yeah.
True Traveler, all those specs.
That's incredible.
It's fantastic.
And again, Nivada makes incredible movements.
Yeah.
Like so many of these micro brands use them.
You were
and
talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just across the board, that's the best part. And I just love the finish on this thing, especially as you said, the rose
Yes.
gold around there is just incredible. I am a sucker for the date windows. I know that's always the
I
debate.
know that's like a toss
Yeah,
up.
but I think at the 6 o'clock especially,
Yeah.
it makes it a lot easier, a lot more, if you're not a fan of that, you don't see it too much there.
Exactly.
But I have to admit, I definitely look at the date a lot on my watches.
Sure, I do
Just
too.
forget that
I
kind
do
of stuff.
too.
I'm writing some form and I have to get the date. I'm like, oh right, thank
Right.
goodness today is one of the days I have a date on there. This is gorgeous, and I mean, to your point, at 800, this is an amazing deal. To have that kind of finish to everything, it's hard to find that these
Yeah.
days. And I think unfortunately, some of the brands, when they're doing the 800, you find that they lack certain details. Maybe the bracelet feels just a lot cheaper.
It's true.
It has a lot more jangle to it,
Yeah.
which this does not. That's
doesn't.
That's a great feature. I also love a quick release there. Always a big fan of that because, yeah, especially on the bracelet,
Oh, yeah.
you could be spending a lot of time there unless it has the drilled holes.
And it's super easy to use too, just so I can show you.
Yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah.
kind of just lifting because there's tension here, and then you're doing a quick slide, and then you drop it into where you want.
that's
And
good
that's
to
it.
go.
That's it. It's so simple. It's so quick. And to your point with the date wheel,
Yeah.
one thing that makes, and I'm not saying that this has to be a thing. I'm not saying that it's an absolute, but what gives me a sign of a watch enthusiast brand is when that date wheel aperture, the date wheel itself, has a color that's matching the dial. I know it's such a small thing,
no, but I get your point.
but it's like a zeroing in on the details where you're blending it in, and it has to still be done tastefully, and
Yeah,
it has
of
to make
course.
sense. It still has to be legible. But those are the things that spec-wise and everything else, and I know I always go on a tangent about value and everything else, and I like to say that value is wildly defined differently from enthusiast to enthusiast. You appreciate a date wheel, maybe I don't care about it,
Yeah.
but for sure a toolless bracelet altogether, and I like
Yeah.
to say that the bracelet is supple because when it's finished enough and it has that nice texture, nice
Yeah.
feel, the tolerances are nice and tight as you mentioned before, it doesn't
Yeah.
give too much of a jangle. It's a fantastic watch, I think, as well, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it too, for
No,
sure.
please. Thank you so much for bringing those in. I
Yeah.
unfortunately might be looking at them now, so you've really done me dirty on
There
this
you
one.
go. We just passed the sickness
Yeah.
on to each
I was
other.
gonna say my fiance is not gonna be happy about this. She's like, no, you shouldn't have done this.
There you go. There you go. So from here, we talked about the WindUp Shop.
Mm-hmm.
You showed us some amazing watches for sure. I want to talk a little bit about WindUp because it is upon us that we're going to have
Yeah.
it this in New York.
Yes.
So what has been your personal experience with it? Where do you foresee? It's kind of like the same questions with the shop. Where do you see it going? Because from where I'm sitting,
Yeah.
when we talk about the 23 to the 24, and now we're in the 25, that's going to be very similar because we're in the same location,
Yes.
much bigger.
100%.
But dude, we still filled it out. Like, you hear me
I
talking
was-
like I'm
I
part
was-
of the team?
I was gonna say, all right, after this, you're having a meeting.
But dude, that space still got filled to
I-
the brim.
Walked in there, I think on a Thursday, looked at it, I was like, all right, this is amazing, because the former building at the Altman, which is awesome space, but we were just outgrowing it. You know, we were getting more and more brands that wanted to be a part of this, more and more people coming in, and we decided, all right, let's up this. I think we like tripled the brands or something that came to it. It was massive, but again, walking into the space before everybody's fully set up, I'm looking and I'm like, this is incredible, but like I'm just worried it's gonna be pretty like sparse or like we'll kind of ebb and flow.
Right.
I could not have been more wrong. There was not a single minute, so like from the moment we opened, that there was not absolutely packed.
Did you see the line before you opened it? It wrapped around the whole Manhattan block. And I'm talking about down the avenue.
Yes, yeah.
Wowie, wow.
This is like 2 stories, massive space.
Massive space and still crowded. Just enough room to
100%.
breathe a little bit better than the
Yes.
year before. But I don't know. How do you keep up with that? Like, is that part of the plan? Are we going to try to get a even bigger venue, or
I mean, we always try to listen to the fans who come to these things, see what it is that people responded to, what they reacted to, and then also just finding, you know, how many brands are interested in this. But again, the list has just been expanding and expanding and expanding.
What did you have? 150, 160?
Yeah, and believe me, there's a lot more that are, you know, constantly
Knocking on
clamoring.
the door.
Yeah, so, and again, because we want to facilitate that. This isn't, you know,
get
we're
it.
not trying to, you know, gate guard or gatekeep or
No.
anything, but it's just trying to find those spaces. So obviously, I think the good news is it does feel like it's always expanding.
Right.
We're still at that same space for this year, which is the 17th to the 19th of October. Please come on by. And again, what's just amazing is you see the return rate on these things, both from the brand side and the people coming to it. Because talk about a collective space, that's the number one. And this is actually a really cool year because this is the 10th anniversary.
Oh, that's
of
right.
starting all this.
That's right.
And so going back to the same kind of ethos in there was, it was started because they were seeing a lot of these major watch fairs where A, you had to pay to enter, B, it was all behind glass. It just felt very, you know, guarded. There was a certain level of, you know, status to it.
Right.
And the first idea was these guys all loved watches and they didn't feel like there was a space that let, you know, people either just getting into this or aficionados come in and play and enjoy and all that stuff. So the rules were, it has to be free for entrance. Nothing can be behind glass. The idea is just you want to come to this space and enjoy yourself.
Right.
And it's just grown and grown and grown. Because when that started, you know, it was a handful. It was not a very large event. And then it's been getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so it sounds like your first one was still at the Chelsea location.
It was. It was 23. That was my first experience with it, which, again, it got packed out. And that's what really, I loved the experience, even though it was a little crowded at the time, because it just gave me a dive in that look into the world. But it was also kind of cool that it was so crowded because it gave me that feeling that, wow, there are so many people that are into it. And at different levels, maybe not every single person there was a watch enthusiast, but they had enough interest to walk through the door. Thank you for making that a free event because you're just creating more enthusiasts for the future. And how important is it for these brands that don't have a actual physical location to have this opportunity? And dude, I call it the Super Bowl. It's really like, I don't watch sports.
I love that.
So for me, WindUp is the Super Bowl. Yeah, and especially in New York, I think the count was like 10,000. I mean,
it was nuts. It was nuts.
It is.
Exactly to your point. You know, I think it was 2 years in Chicago ago. I had a guy come up. He was just getting into this world, and he had on the wrist this like Orient, and it was like, oh, what's on your wrist? And he's like, oh, it's just an Orient. And I was like, stop.
Don't say that.
No, like be excited about that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, if you're wearing Seiko, that's awesome. If you're wearing Casio, like that's awesome. Don't like, you know, play this down or anything.
Right.
And we were just chatting about it, and he was getting more interested in this. And then I bumped into him again, and we were talking. He's like, you know, I really appreciate that you were like telling me to like feel confident about these things.
I love that.
And he was coming back for, I think it was a Nivada Grenchen watch, because he was like, yeah, I've been eyeing these things now, and I want to, you know, go to that next level in this game. And he was also showing me that he'd gotten into modding, and it was just like a cool, again, going back to that community aspect, it was like, all right, we've met, we had this great dialogue, you know, it meant something to both of us. And now we're coming back to the same exact space. We're like, in no other world am I like walking around Chicago and bumping into this guy and going like, hey, let's start talking about these things.
It's that immediate connection that you get over these devices. And I love that how your ethos and your mission statement, because to be honest with you, we haven't talked tremendously off camera, but that's the point of my channel. That's what motivated me. Like I just got it, and I think what you're doing now is you're kind of putting it into words for me, because now I'm remembering going back to that wind up, and I think that that's what led me to have my channel and to have my mission. People often ask me, why do you do it? And I say, hey, I just want to connect. I want to be part of that connection. I want to be that extension cord.
You want to foster that.
Yeah, because that is what the beauty and all of the enthusiasm really comes from. Because otherwise we're just wearing trinkets on our wrist, and then what do they mean to us if not to connect us all in immediately kind of way, right? Fantastic. So any plans for where you want the windup to be? Is it just kind of like an evolving and ever-growing thing where you're just adapting to however it's going to come? Or is there a target thing that you want to someday reach a certain goal?
I think the big thing is, what is amazing is we have expanded so dramatically, but because we've built such a community, we're able to listen to that. You know, you have forums on different social media platforms. You have the podcasts now, and so what happens? Thank you. Is that there is that reaction and feedback. So again, like with the Altman, there was a lot of people who are like, "This is amazing. It's getting a little small. Let's expand." And so what I do like is, every year we've only been able to expand in every aspect of the company, in terms of fan growth, in terms of brands that we're an authorized dealer for, in terms of sales. Like every aspect of it has been growing, but the most important thing has still always been the people who have made that growth possible. And so I think because it was so organic, we're able to continue to grow organically. It doesn't feel like, all right, we're making it push exclusively for marketing or something like that. It is very much around like talking to people. You know, we have people who come in here all the time and they're just like, I have been reading, Worn and Wound forever. I only recently realized there's now a brick and mortar space for you guys. I like came running on, the R train to get here, and I was like, all right, you didn't need to run, but that's awesome.
You don't know how often that story is, because I was just telling the wife, I was like, I had no idea they had one, and I was just like, oh, I gotta go there. I gotta ask them if I could record. I got so fired up about
that's awesome.
learning that. So I hope that even at the shows itself, you guys should promote this location. Nice big fat sign, or maybe in the pamphlets or something like that. People
definitely been talking about exactly those.
Okay, I'm sorry. No, that was for free. That was for free. By the way.
All right, I was gonna say, I'll give you a little residual on the side. But no, to that point, because again, this started so recently, a big thing was just feeling it out. I mean, at first it was like, dude, people want this. And a big thing was instantly, it was like, the response was amazing. So it was like, as I said, originally it was just by appointment. And we realized people wanted more of that. So right now we're just at 3 days, it's just Thursdays through Saturdays, 12 to 6. People are already pretty stoked about that, and we're hearing people always want more. And so that's just part of it, especially when you've started small, just originally a publication by a couple people who were just fans of this, and keep growing and growing and growing. It feels like you can take everybody along for the ride.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how I feel about my channel oftentimes as well, when I'm talking to my viewers. And you guys know this, I tell you, this is your channel. This is not my channel. I am the one pulling some of the strings, but at the end of the day, I navigate it from what they want and what their responses are. Oftentimes,
there's care.
They give me ideas on different brands that I should look into myself. And I'd rather have the people kind of give me that feedback and listen to them, as just so like the MicroBrands need to listen to the watch enthusiast. I think that anybody within that space benefits from really getting that feedback, listening to it, adapting, and adjusting to that for the most part. I mean, you can't take everybody's ideas, right? You'll be all over, but you start hearing different patterns and different things that makes sense also to you and may give you a different perspective as well.
And I think it just comes off as genuine. You know what I mean? Because it's one thing when people are smart. People can feel when it's like you're trying to sell me on something, you're just trying to build a subscriber base, things like that. Whereas somebody who comes along and says like, I want to hear from you, and you're going to see it. You're going to see it like in action, and not in 5 years from now. You're going to see it pretty soon. I think that's what makes that kind of growth happen. And again, genuinely and organically, rather than just, we put a lot of money into this marketing scheme or something like that.
Exactly.
And I think you see that from the fans who are building the space for this online. You're seeing that from the authorized dealer, and you're seeing it from the brands. And I think this is a really, really amazing time we're in with watches because of all the micro brands, which is, I mean, again, it's a relatively newer
space. For a long time, it was just these dominant houses, and obviously a lot of those have gotten much more homogenized, like under one roof, things like that, which, again, a lot of them are doing great things, but it just meant like, okay, you know, there was a certain exclusivity, a certain price point that came into these things. And for a long time, you only had a small amount of, especially Japanese brands, that were making anything even vaguely accessible for anybody just coming to this space. And I think that's what's amazing when you look at these brands that are now here, the ones you showed me, both, you know, everything I brought too, a lot of it is just far more accessible than you would normally have found prior to.
100%, 100%. So can I ask the question, and you may not want to answer this, but who is your favorite microbrand and why? I know it's so loaded. And I'll be honest with you. I probably can't answer the question, so don't throw it back at me. I want you to take the impossible task of answering it.
So one that I just really got into, and it's funny because we have them here in the space. We are not an authorized dealer for them, but we just love them so much that we displayed them. Is Laurier, New York brand. I'm a huge fan of them.
My man.
Yeah, I love that. Going back to it, vintagey feel.
Yes.
I love where its history is. Also, talking with Lorenzo, smaller wrists.
guy.
Big fans of that. Obviously,
Mr. Mustache is what I call him.
That's a good name.
I come just to see the mustache.
All right, cool.
That thing's super impressive.
I might be hitting that up next time. I think they're amazing. And then I'd say, I'm trying to think, I mean, Paulin really is a cool one for me.
Yeah, that is super cool.
I just, because like, I don't know if you've seen the module and the Neo, both their designs on those.
I haven't.
We're going to go see that right after
We're going
this.
to take care of that.
But again, there's just something that just feels so fun to me. Like a huge amount of people that have come in for that, I noticed specifically architects.
Okay.
Yeah, people in the design world, but I just love that there's something about it that seems so universal to them. They're all like, ooh, I like this.
Yeah.
You know, I had a woman who was like, I've never owned a watch that wasn't like digital. I want something that has that. I like the tactile thing. I'm, just getting into this woman, and I don't want anything that just feels too dainty. And I literally was like, I already know. I already know what you want. It's right over
You're
here.
like walking as she's explaining to you. Come here.
I was like, we can go look at the other things, but I'm promising you,
I got you.
This is what you want.
Right.
And she literally was like, yeah, you don't need to.
Right.
This is it.
There you
and
go.
I was like, what color? And she was like, she got this great one with a pop of yellow to it, which I
Right.
just think is super fun. I'd say those are two of my favorite companies right now. But every year at the WindUp event, because there are so many brands that we're not authorized dealer for them. I get to talk with them and I get to meet them and start to get like, oh wow, you doing amazing things over the years. Like I love that part to it, and that also starts to facilitate growth with those brands. So like you have something like Brew we were talking about,
I love
and so
Brew.
doing collabs with them. When you have these kind of brands that are just getting out and want to do that stuff, that makes me happy to see.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, what I love with Brew and what I love with Laurier, New Yorker here.
I mean,
keep pushing it, but
I'm not gonna lie, I do the same thing. But listen, there's more to it. I mean, Laurier, they're also fantastic people, and we talked about the vintage watches. Now they're taking modern technology. They're taking a lot of inspiration and a lot of archives from companies and putting their own spice and DNA. That's what makes it fun.
It's not just as simple as being like, oh, this is obviously stealing from this thing. It's like, no, you see how they played with it.
It's done tastefully.
Yes.
Now with Brew, what I like about them the most is they're very interested in making things accessible outside of even the show, right? He did his pop-up shop recently. I love when they get into things that just open up the doors for people to possibly become a watch enthusiast. And he has a lot of fun designs that are going to attract a lot of people that aren't necessarily watch collectors, and he can draw them into his metric and everything else. And just a great guy.
I mean, when you see it on Idris Elba's wrist, you're like, okay, something's going right.
That didn't hurt.
No, it definitely didn't hurt. This is one of the coolest guys out there.
But speaking of coolest guys out there, when you meet Jonathan in person and you just see his personality, like it's just like I say often on my channel all the time, I buy the brand before I buy the watch.
That's a great way to
and
put
there's
it.
a lot of names out there that I don't own because of bank problems that I have, as in not having enough bank. But I know that I've already bought the watch. Yeah, it's coming. Yeah, right. And I think that's what showcased in the shows for sure. You get to meet them in person. You could have you may even be able to grab a drink with them or go to a restaurant. Like you're really integrated into knowing their history, knowing them as a person, and his team is phenomenal. They're just an extension of him as himself. Islander's another person, and I think you guys are having them on the panel Saturday.
Yes.
I mean, come on.
No,
and
and there every time there's always some innovation they talk about. I loved right when the tariffs were hitting, they had a really incredible video that was just very clear and candid about like what is the reality of this, what is the bottom line from these companies,
it.
which I love that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
The transparency of that.
Yes.
Just being like, look, I'm not like sitting here on millions of dollars or anything. Like I'm trying to explain to you like how I keep a brand going, you know, why I'm doing this and how this thing is going to affect it, instead of just like, you know, one day being like, all right, all prices are up. That's, you know, we're not talking about it.
Right.
I think it's really cool to see that kind of stuff. To your point with Jonathan, like every time I see him at the watch fairs, there's like a line of people that are just talking to him.
Yeah.
I'm just like, man, you're just like waiting on the, you know, one person after the other because everybody's heard that kind of stuff. I love that they can do mecha quartz with that. It makes it much more attainable. I think that's an incredible feature. It's that kind of stuff where somebody says like, I want to make something super cool. I also don't want people to have to break the bank to do it.
Yeah.
And I have these awesome ideas that I'm not seeing anywhere else in this space. So why don't I just go out and do it?
Right.
And because it's become so much easier to find components, you can focus on your design aspects to these things.
There you
which
go.
is why I think we're just seeing so many more original things, because I feel like we had this era in the 50s, 60s, into the 70s where we were seeing so many original things, and then it kind of felt like there was some amount of taper off, at least in the mechanical and automatic
I know what you
world.
mean.
And we for a long time just felt like, okay, these are our dive watches, these are our pilot watches, this is field. Like we don't do much to this.
Right.
And to now have a space where more and more people are coming in and saying like, no, I want to flip something here.
Yeah.
I want to do something that I haven't seen personally, and I would like it. So why don't I just do it?
Exactly. Just being brave enough to take that leap and that jump, and then doing it so tastefully as far as getting in front of people and everything else. So fantastic for sure. And like you said, with Islander giving us that behind the scenes, I mean, that's something really special and even further outside of what, because he doesn't have to do that.
No, by no means.
But he's taken the time to do that, to make us understand the world behind the curtain, if you will, a little bit more. And that's what I love the most when it comes to, and both of them are New York-based brands.
We keep going back to it. We're really pitching New York.
You see what we're doing here?
But it makes you fall in love with them.
Yeah.
It makes you want to support them.
Sure.
I think those are it's a really good tactic, and I don't think it is done as a tactic. I think it is done as a genuine thing. But I think it has the double,
the
parallel
byproduct
effect.
is you're getting hooked into it. So why not do it that way? Because it works and it makes everybody happy, and it kind of, it's like they're earning your dollar instead of just saying, oh hey, I did this and did that, and or I built a name, you should give me money. No, it's we're giving you even further depths of things that not necessarily we have to, but because we want to. And therefore, I feel personally as a watch enthusiast, like, I'll take my money and shut up.
Yeah, exactly.
Type of deal.
And I want to see the gloves on his hands. So that
fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. This was fantastic, man. Very awesome. Any questions for me? We are going to land this plane, as I like to see. The captain has put on the fasten your seatbelt sign. We're going to land the plane very soon. Any questions for me at all? I mean, this was a fantastic experience for me, for sure.
So happy to hear that. I wish I could say the same. But,
no, stop.
This is awesome. This is
I know him at least enough by now that he's joking. Any questions for me at all?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're talking to me about, this was a later game that you started getting into this world.
Yeah.
What was the moment that you thought to yourself, I wanna create like a YouTube space for this. I want to really start to adventure into that. And also, was that kind of a scary space to adventure into as somebody who is saying like, I'm also doing this as I'm learning it?
Right. Two great questions. So I kind of slipped into it, if you will. Before it, believe it or not, I was not about social media at all. Didn't have an Instagram, didn't have anything. It never really had a reason. Yeah. Then came watches. And Watch Crunch was actually my first forum that I felt was the one that I resonated with the most. There was a lot of people there with positive attitudes. You guys are watching or from there, so you know this. And so I started off there just posting wrist shots, this and that. And that is what gave me the confidence to put content up. Dude, I was afraid to put a post out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
They took the bravery.
And so when I did, it was received by the community. They were very loving and supporting. That grew into me holding events in the actual platform itself, where it's just fun. We have a weekly theme. So this week will be taking a picture of your watch with your favorite food. And then everybody would have a week to enter that in. There'd be a winner that would be chosen at the end of the week. Now the community is the person who chooses it. Like everybody, the person who chooses it changes every week. So if you won last week, this week you'd be the person picking the winner.
Oh, cool.
I actually got in contact with WatchCrunch, and they gave an actual emblem, like kind of like an achievement, like in video games. So fun things like that
That's awesome.
really like gave me the confidence and like, wow, so this is all just super supporting people that enjoy timepieces as well.
Yes.
So from that point, that's what gave me the confidence to go onto YouTube. And I basically had a following on there. I said, hey guys, I'm making a channel. I had no business making my first few videos. Please don't watch the first few ones.
Oh, I'm going to them.
They're super rough, okay? They're super rough. But you know what? I'll be honest with you. Because of my mission statement and how I had a fun impact in the community from doing that simple game, just something to have some fun, I said, let me just put myself out there and hopefully be a connecting piece to hopefully people that are new to watch collecting, right? But also what's funny is that it's everybody. I have much more experienced collectors in my viewers and in my support system. And that's what gave me the bravery. I did have, the kind of that feeling where it's like, who am I
to
make
doing
it?
this.
Yeah, like I've only been collecting maybe 5 years, and there's
Yeah.
people that 30 years, 40
of
years, and
course.
I'm not the most knowledgeable person. But dude, that wasn't my point.
Yeah.
My point wasn't, hey, come on this channel because I'm gonna educate you.
Yeah.
It's more like, dude, grab a beer and vibe out.
I love that. I think again, I think it's genuine, it's sincere, and I just
Thank you.
I know, but like I think that's a really cool space to go. I'm learning with you guys.
Yes.
I want to grow and to watch it both. I mean, physically in the old, like going through your catalog of tapes, but also seeing like your knowledge grow into it.
Yeah.
Start to see what brands you vibe with. Start to build that community, as I'm sure it just keeps growing and growing and growing. I think that's amazing, and I give you so much applause for that because it's not easy to take a leap like that. You know.
Thank you.
Of course, no. I mean, I remember a teacher saying to me, "It's like if it feels uncomfortable, you're in the right place because you're trying something new. You're,
I like
you're
that.
going out there and you're putting yourself out there, and that can be scary. So it's easiest to say you're going to do something. It's easier to try it for a day.
Yeah.
It's harder to keep doing it. So,
It is.
good on
But
you.
for me, the mission statement was, regardless of what was going to be said or what
Yeah.
I had to grow thick skin for, the mission statement was much bigger than all of that.
Yeah.
And I just been having so much fun. This is just purely a passion project
That's
doing this
awesome to see.
content. And look, it's brought me the great people like
is
you and
beautiful.
this experience and new relationships.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of like that pipeline where I'm so happy that I decided to do that.
Oh, that's amazing.
And listen, it's evolved over time. My content, people have come back to me and say, dude, like if you watch the first video,
I'm
they're
going
like,
to it. I'm going
they're
to
like,
it later
dude, you really have evolved here. So having fun, but also getting good at it at the same time. But yeah, man, it's just the value in the mission statement at most,
love that.
that I like to focus on for that.
Well, seriously, thank you so much for having me on here.
Thank
this
you.
has been an absolute pleasure.
You hosted, you are the one who put this all together, man. And I really love that you walked us through that. You walked us through the wind-up and everything else. You took the time. You're a great guy. This was a great conversation. And I hope we can do this again very, very soon.
I would love
Maybe
that.
we'll do a follow-up after wind-up. We'll work it
for
out.
Sure.
So thank you so much for coming on.
Of
I do
course.
appreciate that. Guys, all of the links are in the description for the shop. We have links for their actual podcast and their Wind Up regular channel. So there's 3 channels that you guys have on YouTube. Please come to the shop if you are interested to touch and feel the watches. And as always, I appreciate you guys for spending your most valuable asset, which is time. And I'll hopefully see you in the next one.